Okay, today we're going to look at ratio relationships with tangent. And as I go through this lesson, one of the things I want you to keep in mind is I'm not using the hypotenuse on these triangle problems. So tomorrow we'll come back and we'll look at using the hypotenuse. There are three trig ratios, and this is just one of them. And you will need your calculator, so I'm going to go ahead and let my calculator start up here at the beginning while I'm talking about these trig ratios. So as you go through and look at trig problems, you have to know the fractional ratio relationship. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. And when it says opposite, the opposite of A is the side that's across from A that doesn't touch that angle. So you can draw a line straight across from that angle to the opposite side. Then the other leg has to be the leg that meets the opposite side at the right angle. Legs always meet at a right angle, and so that's why it's the adjacent. But your hypotenuse is kind of also adjacent to angle A, but you can't call it adjacent because it's the hypotenuse. And so that supersedes it. Even though there are two sides adjacent to angle A, one of them is called adjacent, the other one is called hypotenuse. So here it's asked us to write the trig ratio for these two sides, two angles. So angle T, we're going to look at opposite over adjacent. So across from T is 3, and adjacent to T is 4, because that's the two sides that meet at a right angle. So that's going to be 3 over 4. When you talk about tangent of U, also being opposite over adjacent, that switches your perspective. Oh, I got to orientate my board because I hit something. Sorry about that. Maybe I can cut that out of the video so you at least don't have to listen to all of it. So now back to what I was trying to say was I was going to erase this and reorientate it. Now across from U, the opposite will be 4 and the adjacent will be 3. So what you will notice is these two are reciprocals of each other. Let's see if that happens again. So first let's do the tangent of K. So across from K is 3 and the adjacent is 7 because it can't be anything else. There's nothing else on the picture. And then the tangent of J, we do from the opposite perspective. So we draw it across to J to the side, which is 7 over 3. And so therefore it happens to be B. So now what is the relationship between these two fractions? Are they inverses, reciprocals, opposites, or cross products? Well, they're not cross products because I didn't cross multiply to get them. Opposites means they're positive or negative. Well, no, they're not that. And inverses is actually opposites and reciprocals because there are two kinds of inverses, so it has to be reciprocals. They flipped. So now let's do a few more examples from both corners. Angle A, let's talk about opposite over adjacent. Across from there is 1. Adjacent to it is 2 because you want the two sides that meet at a right angle. You do not want the hypotenuse. So then the tangent of B has to be the reciprocal of that, and you cannot drop the 2. You have to use 2 over 1. Excuse me, you can't drop the 1 because you have to use 2 over 1. So then tangent of A, again, we can't use the hypotenuse, so what's across from A is 2 over 3. That's the two legs. Tangent of B is the reciprocal, 3 over 2. So if you learn that rule, it takes less time to set them up. So then tangent of A here, well, this is the hypotenuse. So this side is 15 because they're both marked equal. So that's 15 over 15, but you can't leave it that way because 15 over 15 is not, well, hold on. Try that again. 15 over 15 can't be left that way because it needs reducing, which is 1 over 1. Now you can't write it a whole number because this is a ratio relationship. So if it's a whole number, you've done something wrong. It has to be a fraction. So this will be 1 over 1 also. So now we're going to look at solving. And as we look at solving, we're going to look at the fact that in each of these, we have something missing. Let's start with the two in the middle that are missing sides. So if I stick a 1 under this, I could cross multiply to solve for x. And I'd get x equals 20 tangent of 34. Now we're going to come back and learn how to type these in a calculator in a few minutes. Let's get them all set up first. If x is on the bottom and you put this over 1, then you'll have to what we call switch the diagonal. And the reason for that is you don't want to cross multiply and divide. That's too much trouble, because if I cross multiply and divide, I'm going to get the same thing as if I switch this diagonal and say that x is equal to, all right, so in this problem, we want to say switch the diagonal. So that switches the 4, and the tangent of 2 will now be under the x, where the x was, and the x takes the tangent of 2's position. So that's the same thing you get if you cross multiplied and divided, but it saves you a little work. Now, let's type these two in the calculator. So first of all, we're going to type tangent, problem with 20, tangents buttons right here next to the caret key, 34. We want to round this off. So that's, I think it said to round to the nearest tenth, so that'll be 13.5. See, it said tenth. Now we want to do 4 divided by tangent of 2. 4 divided by tangent of 2. And that's 114.5. So now let's look at the outside two questions. How do you solve for an angle that's missing? Because if I put these over 1, switching the diagonal is not going to help, because it's still going to have the x right here inside the tangent. So that's not the process we want to use. We want to do inverse. If you go back and look at your calculator, right here above this tangent key, look, it says tangent inverse. And that's what we want to use. So tangent, well, can't get the markers to work today. Tangent inverse tangent of x equals tangent inverse of 3.5. I'm only going to write it this way one time to show you what happens. It's like square and square root. They cancel each other. Well, tangent inverse cancels out tangent, leaving me with the x. And if I type the other side in my calculator, I will get the answer to the angle, how many degrees it is. Now, first of all, go to your mode button and make sure degrees is turned on. You don't want radians turned on, you want degrees turned on. And if you don't know how to do that, just go down to the radian word and go over and hit enter, and it will change that to dark like mine is, and degrees will be on. Then second quit. Now we're going to type in our problem. So we're going to hit second tangent so that it brings up tangent with that little -1 on it. Then we type in there what was on the other side of the problem, which was 3.5. And when we hit enter, we get an angle. Now, on this question, that would be 40, I'll get this right in a minute, 74.1. So it's 74.1 degrees. Now let's try this last one. So one way of writing it shorter than what I did on that one was to just tell it you want to do tangent inverse of the number on the other side. In other words, take the word tangent off of x and put it on the other side as inverse. Now we type that in the calculator. Second tangent of 90. And we get 89.4. X equals 89.4 degrees. Now these other two answers don't have any units on it because we don't know what 20 and 4 were measured in. But we know these two are degrees because it has a degree mark in the problem. So in our next example, we're going to apply this to this picture. So let me minimize that. So your goal is to country ski over to this Bryce Canyon National Park cliff way off in the distance. It says, how far is it to the cliff? And what they told us was, we took an angle measurement from here. Well, I just would like for this thing to draw once in a while. Took an angle measurement from where I'm standing to where I want to be. This angle is 86 degrees. 50 feet away from where I'm standing is where I took the angle measurement. So this is going to be opposite, and this is going to be the adjacent leg because they meet at a right angle. So now tangent of 86 equals opposite, what I don't know, over the adjacent 50. So to find the question mark, we will cross multiply. 50 tangent of 86. And whatever that comes out will be how many feet this cliff is away from where I'm standing right now. So we'll do 50. We don't need the second button. We're doing tangent now of the angle 86. That comes out to be 715 feet. Now it asks for no particular thing, so I could say 715 feet. I could give a decimal as well because it doesn't tell me what to round it to, so I'm just going to round it to a whole number. So now let's look at some more generic examples of how to set these up. So first of all, this is the opposite side. This is the adjacent side. So tangent of 54 equals W over 10. So you're going to cross multiply that question. 10 times tangent of 54. And it's going to give you an answer of 13.8, I believe. And question 2b, I've got opposite here and adjacent here. So I'm going to do tangent of 28 equals 1.0 over W. I need to switch the diagonal. So W is equal to 1.2 over tangent of 28. So we will type in our calculator just really 1 divided by tangent of 28. And if you type that in, you will get 1.9. So on the next one, I can choose either corner. So I think I'll choose 57 to do it from. So W is opposite 57 and adjacent to 2.5. So tangent of 57 equals W over 2.5. And in that case, I cross multiply and get W equals 2.5 times tangent of 57. When I type that in my calculator, let's see what I get. 2.5 times tangent of 57, and we get 3.8. C. All right, so I want you to stop the video now and try this next set of questions yourself. After we have practiced this many of the same thing, you should be able to solve these for X. Okay, so now that you have tried those yourself, let's see if you got them right. So this is opposite, this is adjacent, so we're doing tangent of 43 equals X over 12. So we're going to multiply by 12 because we're going to cross multiply to solve this question. I'm just going to show you how to set them up. You can put them in the calculator and solve them yourself. So I think I'll do this one from 39 because I like to use the lower angle. So 10 is opposite and X will be the adjacent. So I'll have tangent of 39 equals 10 over X. So I'll have to switch the diagonal. 10 over tangent of 39. If you didn't set it up like that, then you didn't get the correct answer because you have to divide 10 by tangent of 39. All right, so here this is going to be the opposite side. 7 is going to be the adjacent. So you do tangent of 64 equals X over 7. This will be a cross multiply problem because X is on the top. So tangent of 64 will be multiplied with the 7 in front, and that'll give you the correct answer. On number 7, you can work it from either corner, so I think I'll just do it from the 67 for to just try a different way. This is going to be opposite. This is going to be the adjacent to 67. So tangent of 67 equals 6 over x. X equals 6 over tangent of 67 because you're going to have to switch the diagonal. And 6 divided by tangent of 67 will give you your final answer. So if you did not type these in the calculator in these ways, you did not get the correct answer. So in our last question on this page, we're looking at finding the distance from the boathouse on the shore to the cabin on the island, which is this distance. So they measured on dry land 30 yards away and took an angle off of 59 degrees because you can't measure straight across water. Then this will be your opposite. This will be your adjacent. So you're going to do tangent of 59 equals x over 30. X equals 30 tangent of 59. So you'll type that in the calculator. Let's just practice that one more time together. 30 tangent of 59 comes out to be 49.9. We go back and look and see how does it tell us to round it. It does not say how to round it. So 49.9, I'd just say 50 yards. If it tells you how to round it, sometimes it don't. You could also give a decimal to this because a lot of the answers they've been asking us to do tenths. So that's another thought behind that one. Now let's look at inverse tangent. This is where our lesson would pick up. If we split this lesson, I probably would have split it over 2 days and taught the other part that I just finished the day before. So if you're watching this in a split lesson, this would be the place where you would stop and wait till tomorrow if I didn't cover the whole lesson. So this angle X, this is the opposite of angle X. This is the adjacent to angle X because this is the biggest side, the hypotenuse. So tangent to X is equal to 6 over 8. This is to find X, so I don't need to reduce that. I just need to inverse it because I don't know the angle. You always inverse when you have the word next to X. And that typed in my calculator. To type that in again, one of the things you do is you say second tangent, so it'll have that little -1 up there. 6 divided by 8 parentheses equals, whoop, I didn't hit divided by. Somehow I hit times with my fingernail. And I got 36.9. So X equals 36.9 degrees. Now let's look at number 3 over here, I guess. We're doing it from Y, so 100 is the opposite and 41 is the adjacent. So tangent of Y is equal to 100 over 41. So if I inverse that to solve for the angle, tangent inverse of 100 over 41 is what I would need to type in the calculator. Let's see what that gives us. Second inverse is only done by pressing second tangent. 100 divided by 41 parentheses equals 67.7. Now the question says to the nearest degree, so we're going to go back in 67.7. Let me write that down so I don't forget it. 67.7. It says to the nearest degree on both of these, so that would be 37 degrees. And this would be 68 degrees. So always make sure you go back and look at how to round it. Most angles are rounded to the nearest degree if they don't tell you, because that's what a protractor measures, is whole numbers. So now we're going to do tangent of X equals, opposite is 7 over adjacent 11. Again, we're going to inverse tangent. So that means we're going to put it with a little -1 up there and type inverse tangent of 7 over 11. I'm going to set these 3 up and then you can go calculate them. Tangent of X, opposite X is 8. That makes this the adjacent, 5. So 8 over 5. So you'll type in your calculator tangent inverse of 8 over 5. Remember, to get the inverse, you have to do second. and then 11 is your opposite, and 10 is your adjacent. So in this question, you're going to look at tangent inverse of 11 over, wait a minute, I didn't write the right thing. Tangent x equals 11 over 10. So x equals tangent inverse of 11 over 10. So you'll type each of these in and round them off to a whole number of degrees and put a degree mark. Without the degree mark, you're going to lose a point. So the last thing we studied today was to figure out the following. Round to the nearest tenth. There's the first thing we need to know. We're looking for a decimal. Find the angle that's acute. There's another thing. And that angle is formed by the horizontal line and the equation of the lines we have. So first of all, we're talking about a graph here of, here's the line 1/2 x plus 6. Make a horizontal line with it and make a triangle for rise over run. It rises 1, it runs 2. The angle they're talking about has to be where the two intersect. So they're talking about find the measure of the acute angle up here where they intersect when the two lines cross each other. So that's going to be opposite over adjacent. So that's going to be tangent of x equals 1 over 2. And that's how they determined that tangent of x is equal to slope. So x equals tangent inverse of 1 over 2, which means that I have to type that in my calculator. Second tangent, 1 divided by 2 parentheses, and get 26 rounds up to 27 degrees. 27 degrees. All right, let's try another one. So tangent of x equals 6. Tangent of x is always equal to the slope. So therefore, x equals tangent inverse of 6. So second tangent of 6 comes out to be 81. Rounds up to 81. X equals 81 degrees. Then for our last one, you have a lot of students want to solve this for y, but that is a waste of time. This is the formula ax plus by equals c. You don't need to solve this for y. The slope formula for this is -1 times a over b. Just take these two numbers and make them a fraction and multiply it by a negative. -1 times 3 over -4 makes positive 3/4. There's your slope. Now set that equal to the tangent of x is 3/4. So x is equal to the inverse of that to find your angle. So I go back to the calculator and I type inverse. Whoop, I hit the wrong thing. Inverse tangent of 3 divided by 4. Well, I didn't get divided by, hold on. 37. X equals 30. X equals 37 degrees. So now you can go back and you can finish your 8.3 lesson because you now have seen all the problems. Go to the worksheet and complete the assignment.